Welcome back to Rudy's 1/6 World for episode 16 of our new figure showcase, where I'll be doing a quick review / posing session with the newest addition to my collection. And let's start off the week by opening another figure from my Damtoys Gangsters Kingdom haul. And today's selection is the 3 of Spades, aka Bernie. Now, as previously mentioned, this is a Damtoys original line where they have created stylized, almost caricature versions of famous actors or athletes and incorporated them into this world of rival gangs. And Bernie, the 3 of Spades, is apparently modeled after a former soccer player, Wayne Rooney, who played in the English League and on the English national team. So another distinctive person. I think it's another obvious sculpt where you could figure out who it's supposed to be. Now, another thing that I've mentioned about these figures is that each has a portion of a story being told, and the overarching theme seems to revolve around the Jack of Spades and his betrayal of the Spade gang. Now, this time you only get a passing mention of the Jack of Spades, as he is the person who apparently trained Bernie. And from the story, Bernie is apparently a cleaner / enforcer for the Spade gang, and we're being told he's on a mission to hit a rival gang, and he's being accompanied by the 4 of Spades, which unfortunately I do not own, at least not yet, although I am on the lookout for him. But that's the setup, and again, I think it's a pretty good start to just let your mind kind of run wild with. Now, this was the 3rd release in the series, and I was fortunate to find someone who was selling a completely new unboxed version. So I do like the box, keeping that earlier Gangsters Kingdom theme alive, and obviously one of the highlights is again the playing card you get for Bernie, which, as with the previous versions, looks amazing. So with all that preamble out of the way, let's take a look at the figure and all the accessories that make up the total package. And as usual, he's pretty loaded, including an array of weaponry, a second masked head, and a ton of accessories, although the one ongoing negative with this series is no stand. It's a shame, but fortunately I haven't had an issue with these figures, just in terms of I haven't found any that can't stand on their own. So while I would like to stand, it hasn't been necessary just yet. Another interesting thing about this release, he's actually not wearing his vest. Both Ogier and Nelson had the figure with the jacket out of the box. This time they're actually including it with the accessory, so we'll take a look at it as an accessory off the bat. So let's dive into things and start with that vest jacket. And again, Damtoys really does impress with the tailoring and detailing on the clothing. The vest comes in an urban style camouflage pattern, not digital camo, but still pretty nicely done, with a hood and a ton of detailing. The zippers are all fully functional, and it does include a hood which does have some wiring to it for nice posability. Plus, the arms and bottom of the vest also include elastic portions that really do look great. Now, opening the vest up, again, the attention to detail here is just amazing, with the branding on the jacket actually noting Damtoys and the 3 of Spades. I just feel like no one really does this, so I love the fact that Damtoys does go above and beyond. And the jacket even has pockets on the interior, which is, again, impressive. Now, looking at the back of the jacket, just like with Nelson, I think this is one of the highlights because it does include some awesome patches with the phrase "My faith is dead" and a patch right on the back that has a cross with a skull dead center. I do really love the fact that these are patches as opposed to like ironed on decals that could flake off. The patches do give that clothing an extra layer of realism and visual pop. Now, let's look at his primary weapon, which is a Remington Model 870 shotgun, which again, to really show how impressive the details are on these pieces, is actually imprinted into the shotgun itself. So you can clearly see the name and make of the gun. So just more to like from Damtoys. As far as the weapon itself, the paint applications are amazing, distinguishing between the gray metal of the receiver and barrels and the wood stock and forend. And you can even see the bolt pin standing out. The pump action also works, and it does also move the ejection port back. Only thing missing is a shell, which appropriately enough the figure does come with, so you could always put in a shell to mimic the casing being ejected. And speaking of that, the stock does also include a leather attachment that wraps around that has slots to slide in individual shotgun shells, which you'll see later on in the review. Next up is handgun, which I believe is a Beretta, but don't hold me to that one. And it does include 2 spare clips. Damtoys also did include a really interesting way of storing these, which we'll see in a bit. But as for the gun itself, again, paint app wise and detailing wise, really amazing, with the black slide juxtaposed with the silver, and some great detailing at the handle where there's a gold coin element. Now, I do have to say the gun doesn't feel as good as the one that came with the Ogier I previously reviewed. That gun was, as far as I'm concerned, a 6 scale work of art with the exquisite level of detailing. This does look great, and it really does. but it's not on the same level. Although granted, this was an older figure, so I think keeping that in mind, it's also amazing to get something that looks so good. And his final weapon is an axe, and it does come with a holster of sorts that covers the blade, which is all detailed in nylon-like material with the silver buttons holding it together. So a nice, simple item. But what really shines is the axe itself, where you have some great detailing. It's all black with some silver accents at the blades, and of course, in a typical Gangsters Kingdom style, the blades are bloody, but the blood splatter effect is a prime example of excellent paint apps and texturing. Now, the blade is plastic, but it looks great, and it has a very carbon fiber appearance to it, through the handle and down to the beads at the sling at the bottom. Now, moving away from the weapons, he includes a silver chain that is actually metal, and it includes a pendant on it. And hopefully you can read it. I tried zooming in as much as I could, and it does say Queen Elizabeth II. So with Wayne Rooney's history on the English national team, the accessories all really start to make sense. And it's just, again, a beautiful piece for something so small. Next, he comes with a fanny pack that has 3 pockets and a wrist guard that fits around his thumb and wraps around his forearm, which reads "in a wink." Not sure what that means, but again, no denying the detailing here. And the fanny pack does also have fully functional zippers. And that brings us to the very interesting gun holster. It's the fanny pack itself, and you actually slide the gun into the front pocket, and it works great. The front flap of the pack also has 2 slots with nylon ties for you to slide in the spare clips. So again, the fact that they made this fully functional is incredible. As an aside, I don't know who is making these or the driving force behind them, but it does feel like a line that lets Damtoys have fun first of all, but also flex and showcase their abilities. Finally, he includes a single spare hand, which is painted extremely well with that awesome caricature-like bit of detailing. Now, this is specific to holding the axe, and in this release, we don't get an FU hand this time around, which is okay. I do like that each release does feel very different so far. So again, accessory-wise, a ton to like here. Now let's look at the figure itself and start with the unmasked head. And again, I love these. Look, I'm a big MCU collector, so on those figures, I'm always trying to see how accurate the sculpt is to the actor. Here, these are just fun, but even though they're stylized, that shouldn't take away from how good they really are. This one has great paint apps, particularly with the 5 o'clock shadow. It really does look natural, and then there's a ton of detailing around his face with that squinting look. I do love that all of these figures so far have had a clear expression, and it does give them a bit of a personality. Ogier, for example, looks like he has that Jason Statham stoicism and swag, and here the figure looks aggressive, like he's in the thick of things, and I like the slightly exposed teeth. From a paint app and a detailing point of view, all top notch, including the eyes, and then the furrowed brow, plus the hair, really impressive. Now let's take a look at the alternate sculpt, which is a really interesting one actually. First of all, it's fully covered with a black cloth balaclava, and it does have a skull on it, which seems to be done in that stylized way. Now the sculpt underneath is identical to the unmasked one, but the nice thing here, and I think you can kind of see around the eyes and mouth, is that Damtoys did this on purpose because the fabric does tend to stain the sculpt. So as opposed to having us put a mask on a single sculpt and then having it stain permanently, as I'm sure has happened to many of us, they basically sacrificed one sculpt and gave it to us so we don't have to worry about the staining. So love the fact that they anticipated that, and I actually really like the look of it. Only thing that does get a little annoying is that you do have to readjust the mask on the sculpt. It does seem to slide a lot, around a lot, and sometimes hides the eyes, so just a little tedious here and there. As far as which way I'm going to display, I think I might opt for the unmasked sculpt. I just really like the work they did here and the expression on the figure, so I might pick that one. But again, the masked version looks great, and it's also a little unique, given that most of the other characters so far all have sunglasses, so he'd definitely stand out with the mask. Now, let's look at the figure itself, and I actually got him all set up with his clothes, his wrist guard, his chain, pulled up his sleeves, put on his jacket and the fanny pack, put on the fanny pack, and he looks amazing. We already talked about the jacket, so let's start with the sweater, and again, it's really impressive. Looking very much like an older style military sweater with the leather panels on the shoulders and the pockets on the arms and on the chest. Chain looks great on the figure too, as does the fanny pack, and then he does come with older style jungle camo BDUs. All again nicely detailed and really nicely weathered. Finally culminating at some boots, which are actually fabric as opposed to being fully molded with actual laces. So I've seen this before on military figures, so it's nice to see something a little different here on this line. And again, looking at the back of the figure, the highlight again are really the patches on his vest. 100%, and he looks great fully set up. One other really nice detail here, as you look at the figure, on his left hand, he has a nice tattoo of the English flag, and I think it says English and proud. So another nice nod to Wayne Rooney there, and it looks great. So overall thoughts on this guy. He's another great figure in the line, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am really happy I had the chance to get these. If you saw my Killmonger review, I complained a little bit about the lack of a double jointed elbow, and this is a prime example why. I think these Damtoys figures has spoiled me a little bit. The body has a lot of flexibility, including shoulder pivots, and it does have that double jointed elbow that really lets you get a ton of poses, including the shotgun over the shoulder, a double grip pistol stance, and so on. So there's a ton you can do with these and with the other figures in the line. You can really have some fun like I did, creating these story moments and imagining something like Ogier running into his old student and having to take him out as he tries to escape from the Spade gang in his past. So from a creativity point of view, it definitely lets your mind run wild. So I really do like this figure. It's not my favorite in the line, and that's not to take away from it. Right now, I just think that the two of Spades, Nelson, is holding that top position for me. It's not to take away from Bernie, but that one just stood out a little bit more. Bernie has a lot to like with all of the accessories, and again, the quality of those accessories is just top notch. I do feel like this is a line of figures that I was always aware of, and I think a lot of collectors know of, but just pass on it because it's not from a defined property. And it's such a shame because these are really so good, and it does feel like Damtoys does make extra efforts to really make each release stand out. Now, I did buy a ton of these, so hopefully that carries through to the rest, so we'll see as I unbox each. But right now, this line has quickly become my favorite, I think. And after doing this for almost 20 years now, that's really saying something. So as far as Bernie, great figure. I'm super happy to have him in my collection. I love that he's a very different release when compared to Ogier and Nelson. And I like that each one has a personality of its own. So when you do look at them together, they all look like they belong in the same group, but they also stand very much on their own. So happy to have him, and just have to figure out how I'm going to display him. So that is a quick look at the 3 of Spades from Damtoys Gangsters Kingdom line. Let me know what you think of this character, and if you do collect the line, I'd love to know which is your favorite, or if there's something I should watch out for. And as always, thank you for watching, even for a little bit. And if you are enjoying the content, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll touch base on the next video.